The glass stopped halfway to his lips. The music was loud. Laughter filled the private lounge. Crystal lights sparkled above their heads like tiny stars. Powerful men sat around the long table, smiling, talking about money, contracts, and numbers that could change lives. But Desmond Adeyemi, the billionaire CEO everyone feared and respected, was not smiling. He was watching the drink. His eyes were calm, his face showed nothing, but inside his chest, his heart had skipped. Because he had just seen it. He had seen Binta switch his drink, not by mistake, not by accident, carefully, smoothly, like she had practiced it many times before. Binta, his girlfriend. Binta, the woman everyone thought was sweet. Binta, the woman sitting beside him now, smiling like nothing had happened. The glass in Desmond's hand was cold, the liquid inside looked normal, clear, innocent. But Desmond knew better. Across the table sat Tunda Balogun, his biggest business rival. Tunda was laughing loudly, raising his own glass, pretending to be friendly. His eyes never once came near Desmond's drink. And that was what scared Desmond the most. Slowly, Desmond lowered the glass back to the table. He smiled. He pretended to sip. But he did not drink. And in that silent moment, Desmond made a decision. He would not shout. He would not confront anyone. He would not expose Binta yet. Instead, he would watch, because someone was trying to destroy him, and the enemy was closer than he ever imagined. The night continued, but nothing would ever be the same again. Earlier that same day, Binta stood in front of the mirror and smiled at her reflection. She was 24 years old, tall and slim, with smooth brown skin and eyes that could soften even the hardest heart. Her long black hair fell neatly over her shoulders. She wore a simple but elegant dress. Nothing too flashy, nothing too cheap. Perfect. She picked up her phone and checked the time. Today, she whispered to herself, everything changes. No one would ever guess that behind her soft smile lived a dangerous plan. To everyone else, Binta was just a lucky young woman. She had joined Desmond Group of companies 6 months ago as a junior executive assistant. People said she was hard-working, quiet, respectful, very beautiful. They did not know the truth. Binta had not gotten that job by chance. She had been sent. 6 months earlier, remember, Tunda said, leaning back in his chair, his voice low and cold, you are not going there to fall in love. Binta nodded. They were in a quiet hotel room far from the city center. The curtains were drawn. The air felt heavy. You will act normal, Tunda continued. You will be patient. You will be smart. And when the time is right, you will do exactly what you're told. Binta folded her hands on her lap. Her face showed no fear. I understand, she said softly. Tundi smiled. Good, because Desmond Adeyemi is not an easy man to bring down. Desmond was known across the country, a self-made billionaire, clean reputation, no scandals, no shortcuts. He had crushed many competitors, including Tunda, and Tunda wanted revenge. You will get close to him, Tunda said. Very close. And if I don't? Binta asked. Tunda's smile disappeared. Then you will lose everything. Binta looked away. She needed the money. She needed the power. She needed this to work. So she agreed. Back to the present, Desmond watched Binta as she laughed at a joke from one of the executives. She looked perfect, too perfect. When Desmond had first noticed her at the office, he thought she was different. She never pushed herself forward, never asked for favors. She worked late but never complained. One day she had helped him when he was stressed and tired. Sir, she had said gently, placing a file on his desk, you haven't eaten today. He remembered how surprised he felt. No one cared about that. That was how it started. Lunch conversations, late-night calls, quiet smiles. Soon the office knew the billionaire was dating the new girl, but Desmond did not know he was being watched long before he noticed her. The meeting that evening was supposed to be simple, a partnership discussion, some signatures, a friendly dinner. Tunda had insisted they celebrate together. Let's bury old rivalry, Tunda had said with a fake laugh, for business. Desmond had agreed, but only because he trusted his instincts, and tonight his instincts were screaming. As waiters moved around serving drinks, Binta leaned closer to Desmond. Are you okay? She asked, her voice soft. Yes, Desmond replied, studying her face. I'm fine. She reached for his hand under the table. You look tense. Desmond smiled. Just business. Then moments later it happened. The waiter brought 2 glasses. Binta took them. She placed one in front of Desmond, then she paused. She laughed, pretending to adjust the glasses, and in that quick second, her fingers moved. The glasses switched places. It was small, quick. But Desmond saw it, clear as daylight. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. Why? He asked himself. Why would she do that? As the meeting continued, Tunda slid some papers toward Desmond. Once you sign this, Tunda said, everything becomes official. Desmond glanced at the document. 1 signature. Just 1. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Desmond leaned back and picked up the glass again. Everyone watched. Binta's eyes followed the glass. For a second, just a second, fear flashed across her face. Desmond raised the glass. He smiled, then he gently placed it back on the table. I think I'll drink later, he said calmly. I need a clear head to read this. Tunda frowned slightly. Desmond, come on, it's just a drink. Desmond laughed. I said later. Binta forced a smile. Her fingers tightened around her own glass. Inside her chest, panic began to rise. Did he see it? Did he notice? Desmond pretended to focus on the papers, but his mind was racing. The drink, the switch, the contract. Tunda's calm face. Pieces were falling into place, and for the first time, Desmond realized something painful. The woman he trusted, the woman he cared for, might be the knife aimed at his back. As Desmond turned the page of the contract, his eyes widened slightly. Hidden deep inside the document was a clause that could destroy his entire company if signed under influence. Desmond closed the file slowly. He looked up. His eyes met Binta's, and in that moment, Binta knew something had gone terribly wrong, but Desmond said nothing. He simply smiled and decided to play the most dangerous game of his life. Desmond did not sleep that night. The city lights outside his bedroom window blinked softly, but his mind was loud. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same thing again and again. Binta's hand, the glass, the switch. He sat up on the bed, his face hard and thoughtful. She planned it, he whispered to himself. Desmond was not just rich. He was careful. Every deal, every friendship, every relationship. He always looked twice. That was how he survived in a world full of sharks. And now, one of those sharks was sleeping peacefully in the guest room of his own house, because Binta had stayed over that night. The next morning, Desmond came down for breakfast, like everything was normal. Binta was already there. She stood by the kitchen counter, wearing one of his shirts, her hair loose, humming softly as she poured tea. Anyone watching would think they were the perfect couple. Good morning, she said sweetly, turning with a bright smile. Good morning, Desmond replied calmly. He sat down and watched her closely. Her eyes looked relaxed. Her hands were steady, no sign of fear. So she thinks she's safe, Desmond thought. She placed a cup of tea in front of him. Careful, she said lightly. It's hot. Desmond almost laughed. He took the cup, sniffed it gently, then took a small sip. Nothing. Binta watched him closely, then looked away. That was when Desmond knew something important. She was watching everything I drink now. Big day today, Binta said, breaking the silence. You have that follow-up meeting, right? Yes, Desmond answered. With Tunda. Her smile froze for a half-second. Then she laughed. Business never sleeps. Desmond nodded. Neither do enemies. Binta's laugh sounded a little forced this time. At the office, Desmond acted like his normal self. Meetings, calls, emails. But behind the scenes, he had already started moving his pieces. He called Kunle, his head of security and the only man he trusted fully. Kunle, Desmond said quietly, I need you to do something for me, and I need it done silently. Kunle nodded. Anything, sir? I want a full background check on Binta, everything. Where she came from, who she talks to, who pays her bills. Kunle's eyes widened slightly. Your girlfriend? Yes, Desmond said firmly, especially my girlfriend. Kunle did not ask questions. He simply nodded. Give me 48 hours. That's too long, Desmond replied. Give me 24. Kunle paused, then said, I'll try. Desmond leaned back in his chair. While Kunle dug into Binta's past, Desmond decided to test her himself. That afternoon, Desmond called Binta into his office. She walked in confidently, holding a file. You wanted to see me? She asked. Yes, Desmond said warmly. Sit. She sat. I have a small dinner tonight, he continued. Just me and 2 foreign investors. I want you there. Binta's eyes lit up. Of course. I'll need you to handle the drinks, Desmond added casually. They trust me, but I like things done right. Binta nodded quickly. No problem. Desmond smiled. Let's see what you do now, he thought. That evening, the private dining room was quiet and classy. Soft music played in the background. The foreign investors laughed and chatted. Binta moved around the room gracefully, pouring drinks. Desmond watched her carefully. She poured wine into one glass, then another. She hesitated, just for a second. Her eyes flicked to Desmond. Then she continued pouring. This time, she did not switch anything. She served the drinks normally. Desmond felt a cold chill. She only acts when Tunda is involved, he realized. That meant this was bigger than he thought. Much bigger. Later that night, after everyone had left, Binta went to the balcony to take a call. She thought she was alone. She wasn't. Desmond stood behind the half-open door, listening. It didn't work, Binta whispered urgently. There was a pause. Yes, I know. But he noticed something. I'm not sure what. Another pause. No, he didn't drink. He's being careful. Desmond's jaw tightened. Then Binta said something that made his blood run cold. I need more time. He trusts me, but not fully anymore. Desmond quietly stepped back before she turned around. His heart was heavy. So it was true. The name behind the voice. The next day, Kunle returned with information. He closed the office door carefully. Sir, Kunle said, his voice serious, Binta is not who she says she is. Desmond folded his hands. Go on. She joined your company with fake references. The school records check out, but her sponsor does not. Who is her sponsor? Desmond asked. Kunle hesitated. A shell company linked to Tunda Balogan. The room went silent. Desmond felt a mix of anger and pain. So it's him, he said softly. Yes, Kunle replied, and there's more. Kunle placed a file on the desk. Binta has been sending information, meeting schedules, contract drafts, even internal security movements. Desmond closed his eyes. Every late-night talk, every smile, every touch, all lies. But she doesn't know, Kunle continued, that we traced her calls. Desmond opened his eyes slowly. Good, he said, because now we flip the game. Setting the bigger trap, Desmond called Tunda that evening. Tunda, he said warmly over the phone, about that deal you wanted. I'm ready to sign. Tunda laughed loudly. That's good news. But Desmond added, I want to celebrate properly. Tomorrow night, same place, same people. Tunda paused, then said, Of course. After the call ended, Desmond turned to Kunle. Make sure everything is ready, Desmond said. Kunle nodded, including the drinks. Desmond smiled slowly. Yes, he said, especially the drinks. That night, Binta could not hide her fear anymore. She paced around Desmond's living room. You're quiet lately, she said. Is something wrong? Desmond looked at her gently. Why would anything be wrong? I just feel, she hesitated, like you don't trust me. Desmond stood up and walked toward her. He held her hands. Binta's heart raced. Binta, he said softly, do you trust me? Yes, she replied quickly. Then relax, Desmond said with a smile. Tomorrow everything will be settled. As he walked away, Binta felt a strange fear she could not explain. Something was slipping out of her control. That night, alone in his study, Desmond opened a small, secure folder. Inside was a plan that would expose both Binta and Tunda at the same time. He looked at the final note Kunle had added at the bottom of the file. Sir, Binta has no idea she's being watched. Desmond closed the folder slowly. Good, he whispered, because tomorrow the hunter becomes the hunted. The night came quietly, too quietly. Desmond stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks. His face was calm, but his mind was sharp. Every step of the plan replayed in his head like a movie he had watched many times. Tonight was not just about signing papers. Tonight was about truth. Behind him, Binta sat on the bed, fixing her hair. She wore a red dress that hugged her body perfectly. She looked confident again, like she had found her balance back. "You look handsome," she said, smiling. Desmond turned and smiled back. "And you look beautiful." Binta stood up and walked toward him. She wrapped her arms around his waist. "You're sure about tonight?" she asked softly. "These deals can be stressful." Desmond placed his hands on her shoulders. "I'm very sure." He kissed her forehead gently. Binta relaxed. She did not know that the man holding her already knew her secret. The private lounge looked the same as the first night. Same lights, same long table, same soft music. But the feeling was different. This time, Desmond noticed everything. Where the cameras were placed, where the waiters stood, who entered first, who smiled too hard. Tunda arrived 10 minutes late. "Desmond," he said loudly, opening his arms. "My brother." Desmond stood and shook his hand. "Tunda, good to see you." Their handshake was firm, too firm. Binta walked in behind Desmond, smiling politely. Tunde's eyes flicked to her for just a second. It was small. But Desmond saw it. "So you're checking your weapon," Desmond thought. They all sat. The papers were already on the table. Tunda pushed them forward. "Same terms as before," he said. "Simple and clean." Desmond nodded. "Good." The waiter entered with a tray of drinks. This time, Desmond watched Binta closely. Her hands moved smoothly. Her smile stayed fixed. She picked up 2 glasses, and just like before, she switched them, slow, clean, confident. Binta placed one glass in front of Desmond. She placed the other in front of herself. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed nothing. She believed tonight would end everything. Desmond picked up the glass. The room grew quiet. Tunda leaned forward. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. "New beginnings," Desmond replied. He lifted the glass to his lips and stopped. Again. The same pause. The same silence. Binta's fingers tightened under the table. "Drink," she begged silently. Desmond smiled and gently placed the glass down. "Before we drink," he said calmly, "I want to say something." Tunde's smile faltered. "Now?" "Yes," Desmond replied. "Now." Desmond stood. Everyone watched. "I've built my company on trust," he continued. "Trust in people. Trust in partners." He looked around the table. "Tonight I realized something important." Binta swallowed hard. Tunda shifted in his seat. Desmond turned toward the waiter. "Could you bring another glass?" he asked politely. The waiter nodded and left. Binta's eyes widened. Another glass? That was not part of the plan. Binta's fear grows. Desmond sat back down and looked directly at Binta. "You seem quiet tonight," he said gently. Binta forced a laugh. "Just listening." "You've been such a support to me," Desmond continued, "always looking out for me." Tunda chuckled nervously. "She's a good woman." Desmond nodded slowly. "Yes, she is." The waiter returned with a clean glass. Desmond picked it up. "Let's do this properly," he said. "Fresh glass. Fresh start." He poured from the bottle himself. Everyone watched. No switching, no tricks. Desmond lifted the glass and drank. A real drink. Binta felt her heart drop. Why is he doing this? Tunda stared at Desmond, confused. Desmond smiled again. "Now," he said, "we can talk business." As Tunda reached for the pen, Desmond leaned back. "One more thing," Desmond said casually. "Kunle." Kunle stepped out from the shadows near the door. Binta gasped. She did not know he was there. Kunle placed a small device on the table. "What is this?" Tunda snapped. "A recording," Kunle replied calmly. Desmond folded his hands. "From my balcony, from my office, from my phone lines." Binta's face turned pale. Tunda laughed loudly. "You're joking." Desmond pressed a button. Binta's voice filled the room. "It didn't work. He didn't drink. I need more time." The room went silent. Then another recording played. "I'll switch the drink again. He won't notice." Binta jumped to her feet. "Desmond?" Desmond raised his hand. "Sit," he said firmly. She froze. Tunda stood up angrily. "This is nonsense." Desmond looked at him coldly. "Is it?" Kunle placed another file on the table. "Fake references, paid bills, secret transfers," Kunle said, "all traced back to you." Tunda's face darkened. Desmond turned to Binta. "You switched my drink," he said quietly. "Twice." Binta's lips trembled. "I can explain." "Can you?" Desmond asked. She shook her head slowly. Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. Desmond stood up. "You wanted to destroy my company," he said, "and maybe my life." Binta collapsed back into her chair. Tunda slammed his hand on the table. "Enough." Desmond turned to him. "You thought I was blind," Desmond said. "You thought I was weak." Tunda sneered. "You're lucky you didn't drink." Desmond smiled thinly. "I know," he said. Kunle snapped his fingers. 2 security officers entered the room. They stood by the door. "No one is leaving," Kunle said. Tunda laughed again, but this time his voice shook. "You can't do this." Desmond walked slowly toward him. "I already have," he said. Desmond picked up the original glass, the one Binta had switched. He held it up. "This drink," he said calmly, "is already being tested." Binta gasped. Tunda's eyes widened. "If there is poison," Desmond continued, "this becomes a criminal case." Tunda stepped back. "You don't have proof." Desmond smiled. "Not yet." Binta fell to her knees. "I'll tell you everything," she cried. "Everything." Desmond looked down at her. "Too late," he said softly. Binta sobbed. "He made me do it. I didn't have a choice." Desmond's face showed pain for the first time. "You always have a choice," he said. The room felt heavy. The lights seemed too bright. Tunda clenched his fists. Just then, Kunle's phone buzzed. He looked at the message. Then he looked up at Desmond. "Sir," Kunle said slowly, "the lab results are back." The room froze. Desmond turned. "And?" he asked calmly. Kunle swallowed. "There was something in the drink," Binta screamed. Tunda's face went white. Desmond closed his eyes for one long second. Then he opened them. "Good," he said quietly. "Now, the real game begins." The room felt smaller, not because the walls had moved, but because the truth had finally stepped inside. Binta was still on her knees, crying softly. Tunda stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, his confidence gone. The security officers remained by the door, silent and watchful. Desmond stood in the middle of it all, calm, too calm. He looked at Kunle. "Tell me exactly what the lab found." Kunle cleared his throat. "Sir, the drink contained a fast-acting sedative mixed with alcohol, not enough to kill, but enough to make someone confused, weak and easy to control." Binta shook her head wildly. No, I didn't know it was that bad." Desmond looked at her. His eyes were not angry. They were disappointed. "You didn't ask," he said quietly. "That's the problem." Tunda finally found his voice. "This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a laugh. "So what if there was something in the drink? You didn't drink it." "No harm done." Desmond turned slowly to face him. "No harm," Desmond repeated. He walked to the table and picked up the contract. He flipped to a page and held it up. "This clause," he said, pointing, "would have transferred majority control of my company within 30 days. If I had signed while drugged, I would not even remember doing it." Tunda said nothing. Desmond continued, his voice steady. "My employees would lose their jobs. My investors would panic. My name would be ruined." He looked straight at Tunda. "You didn't want to beat me in business. You wanted to erase me." The silence that followed was thick. Desmond turned back to Binta. "Stand up," he said. She hesitated, then slowly rose to her feet. Her legs shook. Tears ran down her face. "Talk," Desmond said. "Now." Binta wiped her face. "I met Tunda 2 years ago," she began. "I was broke. I had no family support. I was desperate." Tunda scoffed. "Oh, here we go." Desmond raised a finger. "Quiet." Binta swallowed. "He offered me money, a lot of it. All I had to do was get close to you. Work in your company, learn your habits." Her voice cracked. At first it was just information, schedules, names. But then he asked for more. She looked at Tunda. He told me you were dangerous, that you would destroy me if I didn't help him. Desmond's jaw tightened. He said the drink would only make you sleepy, Binta continued. He said it was harmless. Desmond stepped closer. And you believed him? She nodded weakly. I wanted to survive. Desmond's voice dropped. You wanted to survive by killing my future. Binta broke down again. Desmond turned away from her and walked toward the window. He looked out at the city lights below. So this is it, he said softly. This is how enemies hide now. They smile. They pretend to love you. He turned back. Tunda, he said, you underestimated me. Tunda clenched his jaw. You think you've won? Desmond smiled slightly. No, I think the game has just changed. He looked at Kunle. What about the money trail? Kunle nodded. We followed it. Offshore accounts, fake companies. Everything leads back to Tunda. Tunda laughed bitterly. You still don't have me. Desmond walked back to the table and sat down. You're right, he said. Not yet. Desmond leaned back in his chair and folded his arms. Tunda, he said calmly, you have two choices. Tunda raised an eyebrow. Oh? Choice one, Desmond said. I hand everything over to the authorities tonight. Poison attempt, corporate fraud, conspiracy. Binta gasped. And choice two? Tunda asked cautiously. Desmond looked at him. You walk away. Publicly. You admit defeat in this deal. You cut all ties with Binta. And you disappear from my business world forever. Tunda stared at him. You'd let me go? Tunda asked. Desmond's eyes were cold. This isn't mercy. It's strategy. Tunda laughed. You think I'll just agree? Desmond leaned forward. I think you're scared. For the first time, Tunda said nothing. Binta stepped forward suddenly. Desmond, please, she cried. I'll testify. I'll tell everyone the truth. Desmond looked at her. You already did. Just now. She reached for him. I loved you. Desmond stepped back. You loved the safety, he said. You loved the money. You loved the plan. Her hand fell to her side. Tunda snapped. Enough of this drama. He looked at Desmond. You think you control everything here? You don't. Desmond raised an eyebrow. Explain. Tunda smiled slowly. This meeting, this room, it's not as private as you think. Kunle stiffened. Sir, before Kunle could finish, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then they went out. The room fell into darkness. Binta screamed. Someone knocked over a chair. Desmond stood still. Stay where you are, Kunle shouted. Emergency lights clicked on faintly, casting long shadows across the walls. In that dim light, Desmond saw Tunda moving toward the door. Stop him, Kunle yelled. Security rushed forward, but Tunda was fast. He shoved one of the guards aside and ran. Kunle chased him. Desmond turned to Binta. Sit down, he said sharply. She obeyed, trembling. From the hallway came shouting, footsteps, a loud crash, then silence. Too much silence. Kunle's voice came through Desmond's earpiece. Sir, Tunda escaped. Desmond closed his eyes slowly. Where? He asked. He had help, Kunle replied. Someone cut the power. Someone was waiting outside. Desmond opened his eyes. So the enemy is bigger than we thought, he said. Binta looked up in fear. What does that mean? Desmond looked down at her. It means, he said, you were not the only one watching me. Minutes later, the power returned. The room looked normal again, but nothing felt normal. Desmond sat down across from Binta. You're not leaving, he told her. She nodded silently. I will protect you, Desmond continued, but not because you deserve it. Binta looked confused. Because you know too much, Desmond said, and because Tunda will not forgive failure. Her eyes widened. You think he'll come for me? Desmond nodded. I know he will. That night, Desmond stood alone in his study again. The city outside looked peaceful. But he knew better now. He picked up his phone and made a call. Activate Phase 2, he said. On the other end, a voice replied, Understood. Desmond hung up and looked at the glass cabinet in the corner of the room. Inside was the original switched glass, sealed and labeled. A reminder. He whispered to himself, "You wanted to poison me quietly." His eyes hardened. "I'll expose you loudly." Just as Desmond turned to leave the room, his phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "Unknown number, you should have drunk the drink." Desmond stared at the message. Then another came. "Now you're the one being watched." Desmond's grip tightened around the phone. The war was no longer hidden. It had begun. Desmond did not reply to the message. He placed the phone face down on the table and stood still for a long moment. His breathing was slow, controlled. Outside, the city slept like nothing was wrong. Inside Desmond Adeyemi, a final decision had been made. "You wanted me afraid," he said quietly to the empty room. "You failed." Morning after the storm, the next morning came with heavy clouds and soft rain. Binta sat in the guest room, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the wall. She had not slept. Every sound made her jump, every shadow scared her. A knock came on the door. She flinched. "It's me," Desmond said calmly. He entered and closed the door behind him. "I'm not here to shout," he said. "I'm here to finish this." Binta swallowed. "Are they coming for me?" Desmond nodded. "Not today." She looked up at him. "You said you would protect me." "I will," Desmond replied, "but you must tell me everything." "Not some things. Everything." Binta took a deep breath. Then she talked. She told him about secret meetings, about other names Tunda mentioned, about investors who pretended to be clean but were not, about how Tunde always said one thing: "If Desmond falls, many will fall with him." Desmond listened without interrupting. When she was done, he stood up. "Thank you," he said. "Now, stay here. Do not answer calls. Do not open doors. Kunle will be outside." Binta nodded. As Desmond walked out, she whispered, "I'm sorry." He paused, then said, "So am I." Phase 2 begins at the office. Desmond gathered his core team. Kunle, his legal head, his finance director, 2 trusted board members. He placed a file on the table. "This ends today," Desmond said. Kunle spoke first. "We tracked the number that sent the message. It's routed through 3 countries." Desmond nodded. "Expected." The legal head adjusted her glasses. "We can go public. Carefully. We have enough proof." "Good," Desmond said, "but we won't rush." The finance director looked confused. "Why wait?" Desmond leaned forward. "Because," he said, "Tunda thinks he's still hunting me." A small smile appeared on Desmond's face. Let's let him think that. That afternoon, news quietly broke in business circles. Desmond Adeyemi signs major deal with foreign partners. The headline spread fast. Phones rang. Whispers started. Tunde saw it and smiled. "He finally signed," Tunde said to the man beside him. "He thinks he's safe." That night, Tunde made a move. He called Binta. The phone rang once, twice. No answer. Tunde frowned. Then another headline dropped. This time louder. Desmond Adeyemi calls emergency press conference. Tunde's smile faded. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled the room. Desmond walked to the podium calmly, dressed in a simple dark suit. No guards beside him, no fear on his face. "Good evening," he said. The room went silent. "I called this conference," Desmond continued, "because I believe in clean business." Reporters leaned forward. "For months," Desmond said, "there has been an attempt to destroy my company from the inside." Gasps filled the room. Desmond raised his hand. "I have proof." Screens behind him lit up. Documents, transfers, recorded voices, blurred but clear. No names yet. "This is not just about me," Desmond said. "This is about how power is abused." Then he paused. "And now, I will name names." The room froze. Desmond spoke clearly. "Tunda Balogun." Cameras exploded with flashes. "He planned to drug me," Desmond continued. "He planted someone close to me. He tried to steal control of my company." A reporter shouted, "Do you have evidence?" Desmond nodded. Every word. At that exact moment, police sirens wailed outside. Kunle stood at the back of the hall, watching as officers moved in. Tunde was arrested in his office across town, caught trying to flee. The news spread like wildfire. Business tycoon arrested for corporate sabotage. Desmond watched the screen behind him change to the breaking news. He took a breath. "This is not revenge," he said. "This is accountability." He stepped away from the podium. That night, Desmond returned home. Binta was waiting in the living room. She stood up when she saw him. "I saw the news," she said quietly. Desmond nodded. "They arrested him," he said. "It's over." Binta's shoulders dropped. She started to cry, not loudly, but with relief. "I don't want money," she said. "I don't want protection. I just want a chance to start again." Desmond looked at her for a long moment. "You will testify," he said. "You will face consequences." She nodded. "I accept that." Desmond continued, "But after that, you are free." Binta looked up in shock. "You're letting me go?" Desmond nodded. "Because," he said, "if I become cruel, then he still wins." She broke down completely. "Thank you," she whispered. Desmond turned away. Weeks passed. The case moved fast. Tunda's empire collapsed. Other names followed. Quiet arrests, silent resignations. The poisoned glass was never needed again. But it stayed locked away. Desmond stood on the balcony one evening, watching the city glow. Kunla joined him. "It's done," Kunla said. Desmond nodded. "Yes." Kunla hesitated. "Do you regret trusting her?" Desmond thought for a moment. "No," he said. "I regret not trusting myself sooner." They stood in silence. Months later, Desmond announced a new program. Young professionals, strict background checks, zero tolerance for hidden interests. He stood before his staff. "We don't build success by destroying others," he said. "We build it by protecting what is right." The applause was real. That evening, Desmond sat alone at home. He poured himself a drink. He looked at the glass, smiled, and drank. Desmond placed his phone on the table. No messages, no threats. Just peace. He whispered softly, almost to himself. Sometimes the loudest victory is silence. The city lights flickered below. The enemy was gone. The truth had won. And Desmond Adeyemi walked forward, stronger, wiser, and free. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for interesting videos.